Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're looking at something I think a lot of you are going to be really interested in,
hmm
walking and mental well-being.
Yeah.
And you guys sent in so much great material for this one.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to dig through.
We've got articles, we've got research summaries, we even have a few personal anecdotes sprinkled in there.
Guess so.
But I think it all kind of boils down to this question that we see over and over again.
Yeah, what is it?
Does walking really improve your mental health?
Hmm.
Or is it just hype?
Yeah, it's all it's cracked up to be.
Right.
Well, I can tell you the research is pretty overwhelmingly on the side of walking, making a real difference.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and not just like a tiny little boost either.
Okay.
We're talking some pretty significant improvements.
Like, how significant are we talking?
Well, for example, one study found that walking can reduce depression symptoms by as much as 30%.
30%.
Wow. Okay, you've got my attention.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. So what is it about walking that seems to have this really profound impact on our minds?
Well, it really comes down to that mind-body connection.
Okay.
So when you walk, your body releases all these feel-good chemicals.
Oh, yeah.
Endorphins, dopamine, serotonin,
I've heard of those.
all those neurotransmitters that play a key role in regulating our mood and reducing stress,
Yeah.
and even helping with things like focus and sleep.
Okay, so it's kind of like our own built-in pharmacy in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Just dispensing mood boosters as we put one foot in front of the other.
I like that.
But I know you mentioned that there were benefits beyond just, the mood boost.
Oh, for sure.
What else can walking do for us mentally?
Right. So it's not all about just feeling happier, Walking consistently can also really help reduce anxiety.
Okay.
And that's both in the moment and over the long term.
Okay.
It can boost self-esteem and confidence.
Really?
And there are even studies that show that walking can sharpen memory and improve concentration.
So it's good for our brains on multiple levels, then.
Absolutely multiple levels.
I was really intrigued by the stuff that we read about group walks,
Yeah.
especially the ones that take place in nature.
Oh, yeah.
There seems to be this idea that, that social connection and getting that dose of fresh air really amplifies the benefits.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's just something about that combination, right?
Yeah.
Movement, social interaction, and being in nature.
Yeah.
This creates like a synergy.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a study done by the University of Essex,
Okay.
and they found that people who walked along the coast had faster stress reduction
Interesting.
than those who walked in like urban environments.
So there's something to be said about getting out in nature, then.
For sure. I think so.
Now, I know we were looking at some specific locations in the UK
Yeah.
that were highlighted in some of the material for their positive effects on mental well-being,
Yes, definitely.
like the Yorkshire Dales and Richmond Park.
Beautiful spots.
Yeah, it just makes you want to, book a walking holiday immediately.
I know, right?
But I think we all know that, just because something is good for us doesn't mean it's easy to actually do it.
Oh, that's the truth.
So what are some of those common barriers that people come up against when they're trying to make walking a regular habit?
Oh, well, I think time is a big one.
Sure.
People feel like they just don't have enough time to squeeze in walks.
Yeah.
And then there's the motivation piece.
Yeah.
Especially at the beginning, it can be hard to get going.
Right.
And of course, some people have physical limitations that make it difficult to walk.
Right. Those are some real hurdles.
Yeah,
But I'm sure there are ways to get over them.
I think so.
So let's talk about solutions.
Okay.
What can people do to overcome those barriers and actually make walking a consistent part of their life?
Well, I think the key is to start small.
Okay.
Don't try to go from, couch potato to marathon walker overnight.
Yeah. Baby steps.
Right, exactly. So even like a 10-minute walk around the block is a great start. And then gradually increase, the duration and the frequency over time.
I like that.
And another game changer is finding a walking buddy.
Oh, yeah.
Someone to keep you accountable and, just make it more fun.
Definitely.
And the source material also talks about incorporating walks into your existing routine.
Right.
So like instead of grabbing coffee with a coworker, it's just a walking meeting.
Oh, I love that.
Or take a quick stroll during your lunch break.
Yeah.
Little changes can really add up.
Exactly. And I think that's a really good point to emphasize.
Yeah.
It's not about, making these huge sweeping changes.
Right.
It's about just those little things that you can fit in.
Exactly.
And I think the sources also talked about technology and how that can be helpful.
Yes, using apps like Strava or Fitbit can be really motivating for some people,
Right.
especially if you seeing the data and tracking your progress.
Yeah, I love that turning it into a little mini competition with yourself or with others.
Yeah,
Can be a fun way to stay motivated. Now, one of the things I found really interesting in looking at the research
Yeah.
was how walking impacts specific types of endorphins,
Like which ones?
like beta endorphins.
Oh, right.
The ones that are linked to those feelings of euphoria and well-being.
The runner's high.
Exactly. And I just think it's amazing how much is going on in our brains and bodies when we walk.
It is fascinating.
What about you? What's been the most surprising thing or the thing that's resonated most with you as you've been diving into all this research?
Honestly, I think what struck me the most is just how powerful something so simple can be.
Yeah,
We tend to overcomplicate self-care,
right.
but walking is something that's accessible to so many people.
Mm-hmm.
It's free, it doesn't require any special equipment, and you can do it pretty much anywhere.
Right.
Yet it can have these profound effects on our mental health.
It's like we have this superpower just waiting to be unlocked.
I love that analogy.
It's not about, fancy gyms or expensive gear. It's about literally putting one foot in front of the other and seeing where it takes you,
So true.
both physically and mentally.
I love it.
Now, you mentioned earlier those destinations in the UK.
Yes.
And I'm dying to hear more about those.
Okay.
So after a quick break, we're going to take a virtual walking tour of those inspiring locations and really explore how bringing nature into our walks can enhance those mental health benefits.
This is great.
So stay tuned.
Welcome back, everyone.
Yeah.
Now, before we take that virtual walking tour of those UK spots that we talked about, I'd love to hear more about this whole idea of walking as a natural antidepressant.
Okay.
That phrase really jumped out at me when I was reading through the material.
Yeah.
Is it really that potent?
The research is definitely promising.
Okay.
There are studies that show that regular walking can have a really significant impact on mood regulation.
Okay.
And some have even found it to be as effective as medication for mild to moderate depression.
Well, of course, it's always crucial to consult with a healthcare professional for any mental health concerns.
Right.
But walking can definitely be a really valuable tool in an overall treatment plan.
So not necessarily a replacement for, professional help, but a good addition to a holistic approach,
Exactly.
like another tool in the toolbox.
I like that.
So I've got to be honest, sometimes the thought of going for a walk just feels, kind of boring.
Yeah, I get it.
Any tips for making it a bit more engaging,
Sure.
especially for those of us who aren't, hardcore nature enthusiasts?
Yeah, well, the social aspect is always a good one.
Right.
Walking with a friend or joining a walking group can make it a lot more fun and motivating.
Yeah.
Even if you're walking solo, there are things you can do.
Okay, like what?
Well, you could listen to an audiobook or a podcast.
Oh, sneaky plug.
Or even, just try exploring different routes in your neighborhood.
Right.
And if you want more of a challenge, you could always incorporate some interval training.
Now, when you say interval training, what do you mean?
But, like alternating between bursts of fast walking and then slower recovery periods.
Oh, okay, so you're kind of mixing it up.
Exactly. Keeps things interesting.
Okay, I like that.
And speaking of mixing it up,
Yeah.
remember those amazing UK walking locations we talked about?
Oh, yeah, let's take that virtual tour.
All right, let's do it.
Where are we walking first?
Okay, well, we'll start in London
Okay.
with its urban oases, Hyde Park and Regent's Park.
Okay, I've heard of those.
Just imagine, strolling through these vast green spaces surrounded by trees and flowers,
Yeah.
and with the city skyline as your backdrop.
It's like the best of both worlds.
Exactly. A perfect escape from the hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
A chance to reconnect with nature
Yeah.
right in the heart of a metropolis.
I can almost smell the fresh air and hear the birds singing.
Me too.
But I know some of our listeners might be thinking, okay, that sounds lovely, but I live in a concrete jungle, miles from the coast.
Right.
What about me?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Are there ways to bring that nature element into walking even when you're surrounded by buildings?
Definitely.
Okay, good.
Even small pockets of green space can make a difference.
Okay.
So, seek out local parks, botanical gardens, tree-lined streets,
Okay.
and really pay attention to the sights, sounds, and even the smells of nature around you. Even if it's just, a single tree or a patch of wildflowers,
Right.
you can also bring nature to you.
Oh, how do you do that?
Well, you could listen to nature sounds, like recordings of birdsong or ocean waves.
Okay.
You can diffuse essential oils,
Right.
or even just look at photos of your favorite landscapes.
That's a good idea.
These small things can have a surprisingly calming effect.
It's like a mini vacation for the mind.
Exactly.
Speaking of mindfulness, that was another key theme that kept popping up in the material.
Yes, mindfulness is so important.
It's not just about, physically walking.
Right.
It's about being present in the moment and engaging all of your senses.
I completely agree.
So how do we actually do that? Mindfulness is kind of a buzzword these days.
It is.
But I'm not always sure how to put it into practice.
Right.
Do I need to, meditate while I'm walking?
No, not necessarily.
Chant mantras.
No.
What's the secret?
Well, the beauty of mindfulness is that it really doesn't have to be complicated.
Okay.
There are no special techniques or rituals required.
Okay, good.
It's really just about bringing your attention to the present moment without judgment.
Okay, so how do I do that while I'm walking?
Well, as you walk, try focusing on the sensations of your body.
Okay.
Notice the feeling of your feet making contact with the ground,
Mm-hmm.
the gentle swing of your arms,
Yeah.
the rise and fall of your chest as you breathe.
I'm actually trying that right now, just sitting here.
Yeah,
And it's amazing how much I usually tune those sensations out.
exactly.
I'm not even aware of them.
Right, and as you become more aware of your body, you can expand your awareness to your surroundings.
Okay.
Notice the colors, shapes, and textures around you.
Yeah.
Listen to the sounds of nature or the city.
Mm-hmm.
Feel the sun on your skin or the wind in your hair.
So it's really about awakening all of those senses.
Exactly.
And actually experiencing the world around us.
Yeah.
It sounds so simple, but I can already feel like it would be really profound.
It is.
Like we're relearning how to walk.
Yeah.
Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well.
Absolutely.
And I love that it's something we can do anywhere, anytime.
Right.
No special equipment, no training required.
Just a willingness to be present.
Yeah.
And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes.
Okay.
It's like training a muscle.
Okay.
At first, it might feel a little awkward or unfamiliar,
Right.
but with time and repetition, it becomes second nature.
And the benefits are worth the effort.
Definitely.
I'm feeling more relaxed just thinking about it.
I know, me too.
But I know we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
And I want to make sure that we leave our listeners with some clear takeaways
Sure.
and, some actions that they can take.
Yeah, good idea.
So let's do a quick recap.
Okay.
What are the most important things to remember about walking for mental well-being?
All right, so first and foremost, walking really works.
Yeah,
It's not just a feel-good trend. It's backed by solid scientific research.
right.
And the benefits are many improved mood, reduced stress and anxiety, enhanced cognitive function, increased self-esteem.
Wow.
The list goes on and on.
And I think it's important to remember it's not about perfection.
No.
It's about progress.
Exactly.
Start small, be consistent, find what makes it enjoyable for you. Whether you prefer solo strolls, group hikes, urban parks, or coastal trails,
Yeah,
there's a way to make walking work for everyone.
I agree.
And don't forget the power of mindfulness
Yes.
to really amplify your walking experience.
It can make such a difference.
By paying attention to the present moment, you can transform a simple walk into a really enriching practice for your mental and emotional well-being.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think we've officially inspired ourselves to go for a walk after this.
Definitely.
But before we grab our shoes, I have one last question for you.
Okay.
What's the one piece of advice you'd give to someone who's hesitant to get started with walking for mental health? What's the key to unlocking its full potential?
I would say just take that first step.
Literally and figuratively?
Exactly. Don't overthink it. Don't
Yeah.
wait for the perfect time or the perfect weather. Just put on your shoes and go.
Yeah,
Even a 5-minute walk around the block is better than nothing.
right.
And who knows? You might be surprised at how much you enjoy it.
Yeah, you might even find yourself wanting to go a little further the next time.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I love that advice.
Good.
On that note, I think it's time for us to take our own advice and get moving.
Sound good.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the transformative power of walking.
Yes, thank you.
We'll be back next week with another fascinating exploration.
Can't wait.
Until then, keep walking, keep exploring, and keep taking care of yourselves.
And remember, every step counts.
So we're back, and I wanted to touch on one more thing before we wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
In the source material, we saw a few things about walking as a tool for self-discovery and personal growth.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a really interesting aspect that often gets overlooked.
Okay.
Walking, especially when it's done mindfully,
Right.
can be a really powerful catalyst for self-reflection and insight. As we walk, our thoughts naturally start to flow,
Yeah,
and we might find ourselves pondering questions we hadn't considered before,
that's true.
or making connections we hadn't seen,
Yeah.
or even coming up with new ideas and solutions.
It's like the rhythm of our steps kind of creates this rhythm for our thoughts,
Yeah.
allows them to move more freely and creatively.
For sure.
And being out in nature, away from all the distractions of daily life,
Right.
can really provide that peace and space that we need
Yeah, that quiet time.
to tap into that inner wisdom.
It's so valuable.
And I think it's not even just about those, aha moments.
Right.
So those can definitely be valuable.
They can.
But it's also about just observing our thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Yeah.
Noticing patterns and gaining a deeper understanding of ourselves.
Absolutely.
It's almost like walking becomes a mirror,
Oh, interesting.
reflecting back our inner landscape.
I like that.
And by paying attention to what we see,
Yeah.
we can start to make more conscious choices about how we want to live our lives.
So true.
One of the things that I found really fascinating in the research
Yeah.
was this idea that just 10 minutes of walking in a natural setting can significantly lower cortisol,
Oh, wow.
your stress hormone.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It's really incredible.
It is.
And it just shows how powerful even a short walk can be
Absolutely.
for our mental and physical well-being.
It's a good reminder that we don't have to overthink it
Yeah.
or wait for the perfect time to reap the benefits.
So as we come to the end of our deep dive today,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this conversation? What's the message you want them to carry with them on their next walk?
I would say this. Walking is more than just exercise. It's a practice.
Okay.
It's a practice of presence, of self-care, of connecting with nature, of exploring our inner and outer worlds.
I love that.
And like any practice, it requires intention, consistency, and a willingness to embrace the journey.
It's so true.
So lace up your shoes, step outside, and see where the path leads you. You might be surprised by what you discover along the way.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
I think it's time for us to take our own advice and get moving.
Yes, let's do it.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the transformative power of walking.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll be back next week with another fascinating exploration.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, keep walking, keep exploring, and keep taking care of yourselves.